Well, here we are, 17 days after the release of Call of Duty World War II. Well, at least 17 days after from when I started writing this script, but I digress. Anywhoosie, after all this time, I have a few opinions to share with you all about this game. The best way I could think of to share my opinions is by structuring this video into sections, one based around each of the three main modes of the game: campaign, multiplayer, and zombies. So without further ado, let's get into the one mode that I think had the least amount of opinions on. I'm putting a spoiler alert here just in case if you didn't play the campaign. What are you waiting for? Now I've seen the videos, the ones that point out all the cliches, predictable moments, and historical inaccuracies, but I completely disagree with most of it. Yes, I see the cliches. Yes, I do see the historical inaccuracies. But out of all of the missions of the campaign, though, you can't tell me that it was predictable. I mean, yeah, sure, the first D-Day mission was kind of predictable as the first mission, but you can't tell me that Zussman being captured and put in a concentration camp was predictable, especially since he was a US soldier. You'd think that they'd just kill him right off. Something else that I can't say was predictable was finding out that Daniels' brother actually ended up dying from those wolves instead of actually walking away and being alright. You also can't say that you expected Daniels not to go home after the mission that Zussman got captured in. I mean, sure, they were good friends and stuff. Sure, Daniels did feel obligated to help because of what happened to his brother. But who in the right mind would stay fighting in the war and go through more hell just for one guy? I get that this whole dilemma is why the scene with Pearson is so impactful, but Daniels is still batshit crazy. Also, since we are still on the topic of spoilers in the campaign, let's talk about Turner. Now, I'm just being nice and making sure that people who haven't played the campaign yet, or people who care about spoilers, have left. Are they gone? Yeah? Alright, good. So I'd say about 3/4 of the campaign of the way in the campaign, Turner sacrifices himself so that Pearson and the other people can leave Hill 495 or whatever the fuck it's called. Now, if you aren't familiar with each squad member, they give you certain abilities and items for slaying Nazis. Zussman gives you health packs, Pearson spots enemies for you, the nerdy guy gives you grenades, and the guy who lost the bet in the opening cutscene gives you a red smoke grenade to call in artillery strikes. Turner, however, is your squad leader, and he probably gives you the most important item next to health packs: ammo. Once Turner dies 3/4 of the way through, you have to finish the last fourth without any more ammo resupply. It's honestly pretty ass, especially if you're like me and you aren't interested in using any other weapons other than allied firearms, since you have to, not break the immersion, my guy. Speaking of things that are really ass, I want to quickly mention the QTEs. Quick time events in this game are in here in a big way, and are still as annoying and unnecessary as every other video game. I just have to give credit where credit's due, though, because Sledgehammer did add a new style of QTE that I've never seen in a game before. That one where you drag the analog stick to the circle and then you hit a button. That was actually kind of unique. The final gripe I have about the campaign is the damage difference in the game. Now, if you're watching this going, damage difference, what's that? Well, a damage difference is a jump in damage dealt between various weapons. One of the best examples I can give of this is the train stealth mission when you wield a grease gun with a suppressor. When using this grease gun, you can pop a Nazi in the head with one bullet and he dies. Seems pretty straightforward and makes sense to me. Now, on the contrary, take that same gun, remove the suppressor, and put it in a different mission. Now all of a sudden you don't get one shot and it takes like 5 to 7 shots to drop a guy. Where was all that damage from the last mission, Sledgehammer? Now, I might be able to answer my own question by saying, well, one-shots were incorporated into the stealth missions so that the stealth would be a bit easier. Then that makes sense, but it just kind of fucks with my mentality when picking up that weapon in a later mission. So that's the end of the campaign side of things, and it surprisingly wasn't the thing with the least amount of opinions. That goes to the zombies mode. Now, I don't have much to say about the zombies other than to confirm some info that I stated in the last video and to mention like 1 or 2 things that I found out about it. So the first release map is indeed called the Final Reich, so I'm glad that we were able to hit that nail on the head. Now, even though we got that right, there's something we as a community don't have right as of the time this script is written. The lurking around trophy. Now, I have absolutely no clue if this is a fault of Sledgehammer and Dr. Straub is broken, or if we, the community, are just a bunch of idiots whom haven't really figured shit out yet. Either way, I have the trophy, and honestly, that's all that matters to me. The final thing that I have to talk about is how I feel about the zombies mode. Listen, it is an amazing mode, with a lot to discover and Easter eggs to find. But something just seems really off with it to me. I don't just mean it's a creepy and eerie take on zombies, ooh. I mean, I feel like some parts of it are almost too easy or not finished. The one most prevalent thing that I can think of right now is, excluding the guy with the giant spiked metal arm, or the guy with the flamethrower, how easy all the zombies feel like they are. I'm not saying that their damage resistance is weak, I'm saying that their damage overall is weak. I don't feel like I'm in that much danger when I'm being chased by a bunch of normal zombie, or those quote-unquote human dogs, as my friends and I call them. You know, those like really weak zombies that show up on dog rounds. I feel like they don't swing like they should, like in the original World at War, when they wouldn't swing as long as you were moving. Maybe that was the intention of Sledgehammer, but no one knows that but them. With all of that said, it's time to move on to the mode that obviously has stolen the focal point of this entire video. Now, I'm going to start off by talking about one of the two most important things in a Call of Duty multiplayer. Guns. The guns in World War II multiplayer are really cool, and I enjoy most of them, but there are two things you need to know right off the bat if you want to be good at this game. And I'm not claiming that I'm amazing at this game, but I definitely think that I'm a decent player and know what I'm talking about. Number 1, never use any shotguns, except for the combat shotgun. Also, never use Brecci 3.0 or else you're a slimy cunt. Never use launchers because they're garbage. I literally had an easier time completing the shoot down core streaks challenge with an LMG with FMJ rather than using a launcher. Also, never use LMGs. They aren't particularly bad, it's just they're underwhelming and you will have a better time using literally any other automatic. Well, except the MG15 is pretty good, but shh, that's a secret. Number 2, not one gun is a quote-unquote god gun of the game. So many people say, oh, the STG is the most OP gun. But then another fuckboy comes along and says, I could beat you with a PPSH any day of the week. And then it just spirals into a shitstorm. When people argue like that, it's a sign. It's a sign that the balance in the game is at least decent at best. The following is a list of weapons that I've compiled in no particular order in the game that are good, but not necessarily god tier. Weapons are the STG, the MP40, the BAR, the PPSH, kind of the grease gun in its heroic and epic variants when its iron sights aren't ass, the Type 100, and the Kar 98K and Springfield for sniping. Not one of these guns is better than the other, in my opinion. They all have their own advantages and disadvantages in any and every engagement. The only other gun-related thing I have to mention is that the grease gun iron sights are ass. They're the most ass sets of iron sights I've ever seen in a Call of Duty game ever. I'm actually currently saving up 8,900 credits just for the candy variant of the gun, just so that I don't have to use those fugly iron sights ever again. The grease gun is a good gun, but the iron sights are ass. Definitely wait until you can save up for the candy variant, or get a different kind of variant from a supply drop. Some of you may be wondering, Ben, why don't you just put a sight on your gun and stop complaining? Well, the answer is simple and segues me into my next point. Every single SMG that you use in the game needs at least 2 of these three attachments on it. Extended mags, rapid fire, and grip. Grip is needed to control recoil and should really be used at all times. Rapid fire and extended mags can be interchanged for one another depending on the weapon. I also can't stress enough that for one of the basic trainings, which are basically perks in the game, called Hustle, is one of the most useful ones on an airborne division class. This isn't in the script, but I also recently found out that the other basic training, Ordnance, which lets you get kill streaks 1 kill less, is really effective, especially for going for like weeklies on fire-based kills with Molotovs. Now, the second most important thing in Call of Duty multiplayer mode is the maps, and I have 2 that I want to share an opinion on. One is Flak Tower. Everyone loves Flak Tower for different reasons, but mainly because of its size. It's a small map. I hate Flak Tower, mainly because of spawn trapping. The map is small, it's probably about the size of Nuketown. But when I first started playing the game, I was assaulted by hellacious spawn trapping. I think it's fixed now because I don't experience it as often anymore, but I still hate that map. The other map I want to talk about is Gustav Cannon. It's literally the opposite of Flak Tower. I love the map, and what people need to realize is you need to snipe. All the people that hate it are just people that use ARs and SMGs all the time, but you need to snipe. No, I also don't mean pick up a Springfield and phase up, bro. I mean seriously use a sniper rifle and go for some sharpshooter kills. You know, holding your breath and all that jazz. The only time you shouldn't be doing this is if you have a bunch of randoms in your game who are all doing that. Now, if one of those randoms piss off the other team, and they all start using sniper rifles and hard scoping, as they call it, that's when you switch to your nearest infantry division and go pull off some flank slaughters. Speaking of slaughters, though, never, and I mean never, play Hardpoint unless you are a huge Hardpoint player. I've never found one good game of Hardpoint in the time that I've been playing this game. It's the same thing with Domination, but it's not the same thing with Gridiron. Gridiron I've actually gotten in good games. But Domination and Hardpoint are always blowouts, and it's never fun even if you're on the winning team. Score is always goes something like 206-30 or some shit like that. Where did the days of BO2 go with the good heart-racing intense games of Hardpoint, with the score ended up being like 198-200? We need more of the 198-200 lobbies instead of these complete blowouts. Now, if you're done getting your shit pushed in Hardpoint, you realize that this shit is whack and you'll want to back out. The only problem is it takes literally forever to back you out to the HQ. You'll get even more upset when you look at the bottom left and see that people are already there and doing shit, because in COD World War II, you're always the last one to load into headquarters. Now, once at headquarters, you can do a bunch of cool things. One thing that they've added is the ability to get and complete daily challenges. The only problem is, most of the work you have to do is nearly impossible unless you have buku hours to put into the game, like some South Korean no-life. No offense to South Koreans. Not only that, but half the rewards aren't even worth the effort as well. Oh, this weekly challenge gives me a rare supply drop. Oh wait, I have to use grenades and a launcher for 10 hours to get 200 explosive kills. Fuck. So once you've grinded out 1,000,000 hours towards challenges and played Flak Gun and played Flak Tower on Hardpoint till you want to kill yourself, and you got to level 55 and all your divisions are to level 4. Now it's time to prestige. We don't prestige over level 55 unless you have nothing else to do, because, like every other Call of Duty, it gives you absolutely nothing. Except for a calling card, which is practically useless when there are so many other cooler looking ones in the game. It also gives you a permanent unlock token, which isn't useful at all, especially considering the fact that you aren't even going to be prestiging in the first place, so what's the fucking point? The only prestiging that is actually worth it at all is the Division prestige, because it gives you a gun that is otherwise unlocked until you prestige that specific division. Airborne gives you the MP44, or the MP40, apologize. Infantry gives you the SVT-40. It's a semi-auto rifle that is leagues better than the M1 Garand, and is only slightly better than the likes of the M1A1. Armored gives you the MG42. The Mountain gives you the scoped Kar-98. I also want to emphasize and mention that no bolt sniper rifle in the game has a, quote, iron sights attachment. I have no clue why, but it would be a very welcome addition, especially since it was in World at War, and using bolt action rifles with iron sights is so much fun. Finally, Expeditionary. Yeah, I almost forgot about it too. Gives you the sawed-off when you prestige it. A weapon which goes down in Call of Duty history as probably one of the most underpowered weapons of all time. That is until it might get patched. After all of this writing and my hand cramping from typing, this video is now coming to a close. I'd like to say thank you all so much for watching and caring about my opinions of this game. Leave a comment saying Brecci 3.0 down below if you actually watch this video to the end. Also, just to remind you all here at the end that I have a donation page in the description as well as a Patreon. Because of this whole net neutrality talk, it's going to be even harder to be a YouTuber and make content. And that doesn't just go for me, that goes for all of your favorite content creators and YouTubers. So do me a solid and go down in the description and take the next step in supporting the channel. With all of that being said again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next activity. Bye-bye.